Without a doubt, we're witnessing one of the most critical stretches in Toronto Blue Jays history. And the big decision that every Toronto Blue Jay fan has been waiting for is fast approaching. The Toronto Blue Jays need to decide whether or not to extend their franchise superstar Vladimir Guerrero Jr. As we know, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has given the Toronto Blue Jays up until February 18th to negotiate an extension with him. And the good thing for the Toronto Blue Jays is they know exactly what number Vladdy is looking for. It's whether or not they're able to match it. If they get a deal done before the deadline, that's great. We have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. locked up for time, and a lot of those questions can disappear about the future of the Jays. But if they don't, then we could be entering the scariest year as a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. In this one, we're going to be looking at some of the major question marks that would plague the Toronto Blue Jays if Vladdy remained unsigned entering this season. If you aren't already anxious about the Vladdy situation, and after watching this video, you just might be. Before we get into it though, guys, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Blue Jays Today if you enjoy Blue Jays news and content. I want to show you this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. outcome tree that I created. I know, the graphics are next level. This tree begins at the February 18th deadline, and this is where we could experience two different realities. Reality A is where the Blue Jays extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and this reality is very stress-free. We could feel comfortable knowing we have our locked-in superstar for who knows how many years, and then there's reality B, and I do not like reality B. This is the reality where the Blue Jays don't extend Guerrero, and we walk into the 2025 season with a lot of question marks. The main question, of course, is will Vladimir Guerrero Jr. remain a Blue Jay next season? Unless Vladimir Guerrero Jr. severely underperforms or is injured like Bo Bichette was last year, there's going to be a boatload of suitors going after him next offseason. The Blue Jays are going to have to start outbidding other teams in order to convince Vladdy to stay here, and that's really tough for a Blue Jays front office that doesn't really have a history of outbidding a lot of guys for a lot of money. And you're gonna have to convince Vladdy that the future is bright, and I guess it all kind of depends on what happens this year. If the Blue Jays go on some big run and everything's exciting, then maybe he's more inclined to come back and run it back again. But if they go on and have a terrible year and we don't have any breakout guys, well, what's the incentive for Vladdy to stay here other than to be a Blue Jay for life? There are a ton of other teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Mets that are way more exciting than the Toronto Blue Jays would be if we had another failure of a year. Point being is there are a lot of other teams that are very attractive to play for, and if we don't extend Vladdy before the February 18th deadline, that gives me a lot of anxiety knowing that Vladdy might just think about playing for another team. But of course, these negotiations might change if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. underperforms this upcoming season, which brings me to my next question. What will happen to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s performance on a contract year? We've seen in the past Vladimir Guerrero Jr. put a lot of pressure on himself to perform well. We've seen him go out there and chase hits, and while it hasn't led to terrible seasons, it hasn't led to seasons that say, hey, I deserve $400 or $500 million. How is it going to affect his mental when he knows that he just turned down probably a decent size offer from the Toronto Blue Jays this winter, and now he's going to play to try and get a little bit more money either out of the Jays or another team? He's got to play equal to, if not greater than what he did last year. And let's be honest, last year is very hard to do. And let's say he does underperform, then another question comes up of, well, how much money does he actually make? If he has another down year like he had in 2023, then what number do you actually give him? I'll say this to Vladdy, if he's watching. You can take a lot of pressure off yourself if you sign an extension before this upcoming season, so that way you can go out there and just focus on baseball. And also, you wouldn't have to worry about possibly getting traded, which is question 3. Will the Blue Jays trade Guerrero at the trade deadline? Now, we've talked about this before on this podcast. It is really hard to believe that Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro would send off Guerrero at the deadline. That being said, if they are abysmally down, like I'm talking 10 to 15 to 20 games below 500, who's to say that they won't listen to at least a few enticing offers this coming July? And if you do end up trading Guerrero, look, I know it's business, but that's got to hurt Guerrero just a little bit, and I think that diminishes your chances even more so of signing him in the offseason. Another big question that comes up is, how will this impact the Blue Jays' ability to sign players next offseason? If the Blue Jays are negotiating with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we don't know how long that's going to take. And during that time, I don't think the Blue Jays are going to get anybody else on the squad. Of course, their main focus is going to be getting Vladimir Guerrero Jr. back, and anybody else doesn't matter. But still, if you're looking to build a competitive team, this is just another delay in that process. Now, speaking of free agents and making this team better, the big question that I think everybody's thinking if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is unsigned going into the season is, are the Blue Jays going to be competitive beyond 2025? Hey guys, time for a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. Hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code down below or click the link in the description to join the action. Available in Ontario only, must be 19 years older to participate, and guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content. 2025 has been the year that every Blue Jay fan has been circling on their calendar because they know that that's the last year of Vladdy and Bo Bichette. And probably for years now, there's been a question that kind of slips into every Blue Jay fan's mind, and that is, what is going to happen after 2025? Without Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on this team, the Blue Jays, they don't have an identity. That's a scary thought. Without a doubt, if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. goes to a new team in 2026, it changes the whole course of this franchise. The unknown is terrifying, and I know that we'd feel a lot better knowing that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was a Blue Jay for life, or at least for the next 5 to 6 to 7 years. However, that's the fan in me talking, and at the end of the day, this is a business, and I hope that the Blue Jays can make a business decision that helps the fans. But guys, you let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, guys, go Jays go!